Finish it up? Okay. We are now joined by the crew chief for the number 4 Bush Beer Ford, Rodney Childers. Rodney, talk a little bit about tonight's race.
Yeah, we had a good race. We had a really good weekend in general. You look back at the fall race here last year, and we were absolutely horrible and embarrassed to say the least. So from that race on, we really went to work and made our cars a lot better for the short tracks, and I think that showed with Phoenix this year and then coming up.
Is one of the toughest to pass when he has control of the race, and for me that was the moment that I needed to make it happen, and we were able to execute it well and drive away, and he finished second, right? Yeah, so.
Matthew, then we'll go to Bob.
Matthew Ernst with WWLP 22 News. Kevin, I wanted to ask you how the track was today after the rain. And another question I wanted to ask you was, I know you've voiced your opinion in short track racing. How cool is it to see grassroots of the modifieds and the K&N series up here?
The track itself was different at the beginning because it was obviously the PJ1 was fresh, and as the race went, it really started to wear off, and I was able to find kind of a different line than everybody else. And that was really where my car would take off after about 10 or 12 laps, and we could make time and turn down sooner than everybody and get to the fresher PJ1 and get better drive up off the corner. It kind of got caked up in the middle of the corner, and there was a lot of grip there, but it would turn. So if you could get down there soon enough, it really helped it. As far as the grassroots stuff, I've enjoyed being a part of the Stafford Speedway conversation, and those guys, they're up there, they're racing every week for every dollar that they can get, so just to be a small part of it. And really it's all about bringing attention to, the guys and gals and racetracks and people that need the support from this level. It's not just me. I mean, there's a lot of guys that do different things, whether it's supporting them and drawing attention or going and racing or sponsoring cars or owning teams, whether it's sprint cars, late models. There's a lot of participation in this garage from a lot of people, and it's just really just making that heard. And and the more you hear about it, the more attention that it brings, the more excitement that it brings, and that's what we need from that level. But when you see the modified race up here, you realize that that's usually probably the best show of the weekend, and it was right there at it again this week.
Bob, then Terrell.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. Kyle said that everybody has fair game on Kyle Busch. He said your move was fine, no harm, no foul, but he also said he thought you might take a little bit longer to try to pass him clean. So I'm curious, did you think about waiting till maybe 2 or 3 to go?
No, I figured that's exactly what he was thinking, and I knew I needed to take the opportunity as early as I could get it, because I knew that he was thinking late, and we needed to do it when he wasn't expecting it, because the more opportunities to get in his wheelhouse, in his thought process, the less chance that you have. He's that good. And if you wait till 2 or 3 to go, the entries are going to get shallower. He's going to start grinding on the brakes a little bit harder. He's going to put himself in a position to not get hit, and he's going to go on defense and start to really get aggressive too. So it's I wanted to do it earlier, just to try to catch him off guard.
And do you consider that clean if he finishes second?
I mean, you got to do. These races are hard to win, and when you're in position, it's one of those things that you have to do what you have to do for your team, and you want to do everything that you can to not spin them out and not wreck them, and just make it as clean as possible, and try to accomplish the bump and run. And today we're able to accomplish it well and win the race.
Terrell, go ahead.
Terrell Covey, Portsmouth Herald. You both, two of your teammates today looked like they were kind of in position to win it, and you come in at the end, and what separates you? What allows you to close these things out? When the guys that you share so much with kind of don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, I felt like Eric had the best car today. I mean, he could really run the bottom well and make time down there. And when he wanted to go down there, he could make passes. I wasn't as good at it as he was down there. And it really just came down to a restart. And there's just, it's a really finicky place to restart, especially on the inside down there. And it looked like he just spun the tires and kind of got everything stacked up. But it's like I told him at Chicago. I mean, sometimes you got to lose a few before you actually put it all together and win them. But the way that they've come on strong says a lot about the progress that they've made, and it's great to have that 10 car being a valuable tool to the other 3 cars at Stewart-Haas.
Go to Paul, we'll go to the gentleman in the back, and then we'll go to Jim over here on the right.
Paul Lambert from Short Track Scene. Kevin, we've seen guys like Ryan Newman get in the modifieds. Newman said yesterday he doesn't feel the responsibility to grassroots racing per se. Do you feel that responsibility to keep that alive and keep it out there?
I feel like we can help. I feel like it's everybody's responsibility to a certain degree to try to help the grassroots and I'm talking NASCAR all the way up, drivers and look, that none of us have the time to dedicate an abundance of time to the things that we do, but we all have a great pedestal to stand on and beat our chest and talk about things and I did the K&N race this year in Bakersfield and drew a lot of attention to the series and did the same thing last year in Sonoma. Newman and just racing in the modified brings someone like you that can write about Ryan racing and so it's not his responsibility, it's not my responsibility, it's something that we all should wrap our arms around to try to help make it healthier because I believe that's where a lot of our hardcore fans are and have gone and the healthier that the short track stuff is, the better off we all are going to be.
Jeff Marconi, Purdue University, Wiley Radio. So the last time you and I talked, we actually had a conversation about how important team cohesion is. And one of the bigger stories at the beginning of the week was some pit crew members being changed around all over Stewart-Haas Racing. Do you think those changes benefited you, and will they stay throughout the rest of the season?
You're asking the wrong guy. I don't make those decisions.
I mean, in general, it seemed like we had a good day on pit road. We've had our ups and downs. I think a lot of attention was toward that way this week after Kentucky, and you look back at Chicago and we had stops. We had one stop at Chicago. We picked up 5 spots. And the problem was we couldn't do that consistently, and this week was really about matching personalities, matching the skill sets of different people, and we felt like that we did that as a company. And I can't speak for everybody else. I don't know what all happened with the other 3 teams, but our stops weren't clean by any means. But I can say when they are clean, they weren't clean, and we had 13 twos. So when we are clean, they're going to be right there with the 18. So we just got to get people working together. They had one day to practice with each other before we came, and but overall they did a good job.
Let's go Jim, then we'll go to Bob, and then we'll go to Jeff.
Jim Utter, motorsport.com. For Rodney, late there at the end, you told Kevin, do what you got to do to win the race. Was that kind of reflective of the philosophy that Kevin was referring to about earlier than later? Because I'm assuming you don't need to tell him to do that in general.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's short track racing, and like I told Claire earlier, I won lots and lots of short track races growing up. Not one of them did I win without bumping somebody. You listen to Kyle's radio as soon as it happened. He said, "Man, I was holding him up." It's just part of it. You got to do what you got to do. But on the other hand, we're sitting there watching the radar, and there's people on the spotter stand complaining about it raining. In those situations, you have to try to win the race. And like he said, we look back at Michigan all the time, thinking that it's a race that we should have won. But you have to take advantage of every circumstance.
Bob Hockers, ESPN. Kevin, I know wins are huge, but
Where are you from, Bob?
ESPN.
ESPN, okay.
Do playoff points matter, like, in what's kind of clean and what's acceptable on these last laps now? I mean, because every win, that's a 10-point swing in playoff points between
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what you're racing for right now, and the win is the way that you get the most. So to get 5 points, and like you say, it's a 10-point swing. So we'll be 32, and I don't know what he has, but it's right there at it. So it'll be at some point it'll be leaned on over the last 10 weeks, and you look at that first round and you go to Vegas and hope that everything goes okay, and then you go to Richmond and the Roval, and you've seen how many cars we've crashed at the Roval so far. So that's going to be survival, and you just never know what's going to happen. It's going to be a great event with all the unknowns, but you could be the unknown of getting in the big wreck in turn one, or crashing on your own, or whatever the case may be. And there's just that first round just has a lot of unknowns. So you finish where you are right now, you'll have 42 points, and you're creeping in on a whole race, and that's really what you're trying to guard yourself with are those playoff points. Because you could look at Kyle Larson last year. He had a bad race and an engine failure. Done. Had a bunch of playoff points, and considered a favorite to go to Homestead, and probably gets to Homestead. He's going to be hard to beat, getting up against that fence. But you're going to have trouble, and there's two ways out: playoff points or win.
How do you execute the perfect bump and run without wrecking somebody? Is it a fine line?
It is a fine line. You want to try to get them right as they're at the apex, coming off the brake, so that it gets that's right when the back of the car is the lightest, and you don't want to get them while they're turning off the wall into the corner and back them into the fence. So it's a fine line of trying to get it right, and sometimes you get it right and sometimes you don't.
Gentleman in the back.
Bob Bianchi, WSMN News. You're pretty masterful at the bump and run. Is there some concern going into the playoffs that somebody that might not be as talented as you, that might come back and bite you?
You just race every week. You don't worry about things you can't control.
Any final questions? Go ahead.
Kevin, the home race for Nicholas Teo, YankeeRacer.com. The home race for Textron, obviously important to win on their home turf, but can you just speak to how they supported your career?
Yeah, Textron has been a huge part of everything that we've done, whether it's flying to the racetrack or Textron Off-Road or Easy Go. They've supported everything that we've done at KHI since 2008. So they've been a long-standing partner of ours, and always support everything that we do. So it's fun to have them on board.
Kevin and Rodney, congratulations.